Strength in the Shadows, the podcast where we fearlessly navigate the art of building discipline, cultivating grit, mastering resilience, and unlocking true potential. Surpass your limits and join us on this journey of transformation as we unapologetically explore the intersection of fitness, mindset, and unwavering accountability. Welcome, my friend. Let's go. Episode 17, Deployment. This one's a real treat. Port calls, port visits, shenanigans, debauchery, all the ins and outs, everything we did, everywhere we went, the infamous famine, right? Starvation aboard the ship, potential mutiny, almost throwing away my entire naval career during a port call, the gym, training on board, and of course, living conditions, all of that and much, much more. So for context, I went on 2 overseas deployments while active duty. My first overseas deployment was to Southeast Asia, specifically the South China Sea and the waters off the coast of North Korea. That deployment was on a missile cruiser, crew size of about 300 to 400 people. It's similar to a destroyer, and that deployment was 7 months long. My second overseas deployment was to the Middle East. I was on an amphib, which is short for amphibious assault ship. It's basically like a mini aircraft carrier. We had a crew size of about 3,000 to 4,000 people on board, and that ship specifically had Marines as well. So both sailors and Marines were embarked. That deployment was supposed to be 7 months, but we got extended to 8 or 9 months. Hashtag demons. And so in today's episode, this will all be about deployment number 1. If you guys enjoyed the episode, let me know. I can do another episode or a future episode and talk about deployment number 2. But as I said, everything in today's episode will be about deployment number 1 on that missile cruiser. So for some background information, I went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, which is right outside of Washington, D.C. And part of the service commitment or obligation to go into that academy was that I owed a minimum of 5 years of active duty service to the government post-graduation. So as soon as I commissioned as an officer, boom, I hit the fleet, and I was stationed in San Diego, California. I spent my entire military career right there in San Diego. And at the time of this podcast recording, right, years later, here I am as a homeless veteran living out of my vehicle. Hashtag van life, right? We're living the SoCal dream. Wouldn't want it any other way. But as an active duty officer, man, San Diego was definitely the place to be. Really good time. So 8 or 9 months after graduating from the Naval Academy, I found myself on my first deployment. And dude, when you get to your ship, as an officer at least, one of the perks or privileges is that you get to have a stateroom. And a stateroom is basically a room where officers live. Typically, you'll share it with 1, 2, or 3 other officers. Has a, comfortable bed, desk, TV, computer, plenty of storage, a comfy, cute little carpet there on the floor. And all officers in staterooms live in O country, right? Officer country. So you have all these staterooms where all the officers live, and all the enlisted live down below in enlisted berthing. Well, when I got to the ship, I asked where my stateroom was. Trying to move my sea bag in there, get settled, get ready. Well, on this deployment, my friends, sorry, no can do. I did not have a stateroom. Nope. They were sending me down below with the fellow junior officers, the fellow newbies, right? We were all ensigns there. They had an excess number of officers, and they made a makeshift berthing or a makeshift stateroom down below, and they essentially emptied out the small, rickety janitor's closet. It was connected to an enlisted berthing, and they called it the JO Jungle. Junior Officer Jungle, a.k.a. the suck. And boy, did it suck. The suck was basically a room that was like 10 feet by 6 or 7 feet. You had 3 coffin-style beds stacked on one wall. Across the little passageway there, or alleyway, boom, on the other wall, 3 beds stacked. So I lived with 5 other dudes in there. Minimal lighting, no airflow, no temperature control. It was miserable. With very very limited storage. You would open up your, bunk there, open up your bed, open up your rack, as they call it, and there would be, a spot where you could put your laptop, some books, your clothes, your toiletry bag, but that's it. There wasn't much. It was terrible. I'd spent the entire deployment in the suck. Enlisted made fun of us. Hey, it's all good, right? If not us, then who? But man, not a fun time, especially when all my other friends on other ships had their own staterooms and were living fat, dumb, and happy. So when I wasn't in the suck, right? When I wasn't on watch, when I wasn't doing my job, where was I? You guessed it. We go gym. There was a gym on board. It was in the back of the ship. It was called the aft pump room, and it had everything you needed. For those people that aren't familiar with the Navy, the bigger the ship, the better the gym. So aircraft carriers, amphibs, right? Amphibious assault ships, man, incredible gyms. Multiple gyms on board. With smaller ships like missile cruisers, destroyers, minesweepers, LCS, which stands for Littoral Combat Ships, these ships or these boats, much, much smaller gyms, and typically only one. The space was about 30 feet by 20 feet. It had all the basics. We made the most of it. It had a dumbbell rack, table machine, leg extension, leg curl, Smith machine, a back extension piece, and, an adjustable bench or two with a pull-up bar up top. Dude, we made some serious gains on deployment. That's the time to do it. Sure, you can go read a book, but why not throw down a filthy, juicy pump and get after it, especially when you have 7, 8, 9 months out there. And dude, we got big, we got strong, and it was just a good time. Take care of our mental and physical health. Of course, enlisted sailors were in there grinding, getting after it, and there were about 12 officers on board this ship that were training hard too, right? So we were called the Dirty Dozen. 12 naval officers showing up every single day, representing, O country. And, man, it was a good time. It was fun. We challenged each other, smoking and joking, pop a little top, making gains, talking shit. It was fun, man. Shout out to the Dirty Dozen. Out of us 12, I think there's maybe like only 1 or 2 other officers that are still grinding, getting after it. Most people, once deployment's over, they stop, they get comfortable, they get lazy, lack of discipline, boom, throw it all away. But no, me and about 2 other people who I know personally, we're still grinding, we're still training and representing the Dirty Dozen. Well, when you're training so hard, right, when you're grinding, burning calories, you need protein, you need to refuel. Well, unfortunately, our ship was the laughingstock in the fleet. And literally, other ships that were deployed with us, they'll tell you, oh yeah, that ship is the one ship you don't want to be on when it comes to food. On every ship, there's a SUPO, which stands for Supply Officer. Underneath the Supply Officer, there's a position called FSO, Food Service Officer, who's in charge of the logistics, food management, the chefs, the cooks, right? Waste management, all of it. And we had the worst FSO in the entire Navy. The enlisted sailors ate very, very well, which I'm happy about, as they should. They could go up 2, 3, 4 plates, boom. Refuel, restock, all good. What about the officers? Nope. The FSO said 1 plate per officer. Well, what did a plate look like? I'll give you an example. I remember a meal that was 1 pathetic small little slice of pizza and then literally 2 buffalo wings with minimal meat on the bones there. That was it. And there was legit almost a mutiny. And other ships knew of this, right? They would also sometimes send emails to me or get on comms and be like, hey, you need any food? Do you need anything? We have some helo guys coming over. The bird or the helicopter will land. We can send you guys some chicken fingers, some steaks, some potatoes, some fries. I mean, literally anything. We'll eat it on our ship. And people complained. Even lieutenant commanders, right? Commanders, they would complain and say things to the captain like, hey, the officers are getting a little riled up here. They don't have the energy. They don't have the stamina, the endurance. Of course, a lot of them are investing in their physical health with the gym. They need more food. What the hell is going on. And sure enough, man, for about 3, 4, 5 months, I mean, the Admiral had to get involved because it was pathetic. And I remember that's where I fell in love with protein shakes and protein bars, and we would restock on port calls or port visits because we needed nutrition. We needed the calories. We were literally starving. It was terrible. So if that FSO is listening, I'm sorry, not sorry. You fucking sucked at your job. Go be better, okay? I don't know what she had against us. I guess she hated her fellow officers, and I'm pretty sure she got relieved from her previous command because I guess she choked out or threw a punch at her suppo, right, her supply officer, and then she got sent to our ship. So lucky enough for us, nutrition was a very difficult venture on that deployment. So where did we go? Well, my first overseas port call was Guam. Guam's basically a poor man's Hawaii. Beautiful beaches, really nice people, but not much to do. It's basically a shopping center or shopping hub for people that live in Asia. So they'll fly, long weekend, go to Guam, shop till you drop, boom, turn back to the motherland, and that's Guam. The gym on base, though, was absolutely insane. Incredible. I'd return for the pumps. Outside of that, hey, I'm good with Guam. Check. After Guam, we pulled into Mokpo, South Korea. Mokpo's a sleepy little fishing village. And we received intel that, hey, skip Mokpo, maybe you grab dinner, but boom, take the high-speed bullet train up north to Seoul. So there we were, Seoul, South Korea. We had 3 or 4 days off, and dude, Seoul was incredible. Seoul is insane, and it's massive. We were fully embedded in Korean culture, and I loved it. The people welcomed us warmly. The food was out of this world. A lot of history there. Like I said, it's massive. People don't even understand it. Similar to Tokyo. If you go up on a skyscraper with a 360-degree viewing deck, you can literally peer out or see 360-degree views that the city just keeps going and going and going. Like I said, very similar to Tokyo. It's another world, another planet over there. I love Seoul. And while we were in Seoul, we actually took a trip up to the DMZ. Yes, we got to peer into North Korea. Man, that was eerie. That was spooky. You're in downtown Seoul. It's sunny, not a cloud in the sky. You get to the DMZ. You peer and look into North Korea. It's no longer sunny. Tons of clouds. It's a little bit colder. There's like an eerie fog in the distance. And you could literally see the North Koreans standing watch, not moving, complete stoicism, half their face behind a building or wall, half their face behind a tree, all scattered across the border there, and they did not move for hours. So, to be honest with you, North Korea is probably not a place at the top of my bucket list, but hey, to each their own. If you ever get some vacationing done or want to do some trips to travel to North Korea, hey, let me know. Heard Pyongyang's an absolute blast. So, after Korea, we pulled into one of my favorite cities. Man, Singapore is absolutely incredible. And ever since this first deployment, I've been back to Singapore multiple times. It never disappoints. It's so safe. It's so clean. The food's incredible. The people are from all over the world. It's very diverse and international. And we stayed at the Marina Bay Sands. Google it. Marina Bay Sands, Singapore. Best hotel I've ever stayed in. World-class infinity pool with views of the entire city. Dude, nightlife, off the charts. It's so good. I will continue to go to Singapore. And to be honest, if I had money, if I was loaded, I'd probably go move or live in Singapore full time. It's that good. Absolutely love it. After Singapore, we pulled into the Philippines. The thriller of Manila. Dude, when it comes to debauchery, when it comes to lawlessness, Manila, Philippines is, dude, it's crazy. And me and my buddy, right? Me and my friends, all the other junior officers that were young, dumb, and full of cum, single, right? Chasing tail. Manila was the perfect place to be. We were celebrities over there. We were actually a somebody in the city of Manila. Dude, we'd go out 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Our curfew was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, but after being pent up for 20, 25, 30 plus days, it didn't matter. We didn't care. We went out on the town, and it was so fun. I remember one of the red zones, right, off-limit areas for that deployment, or for Manila specifically, was an establishment called the Hobbit House. The Hobbit House in Manila. I didn't go, but caught word that someone got in trouble because they violated the rules, and they went to the Hobbit House, which was a brothel full of midgets. And I guess this one sailor got caught there with his pants down, railing a midget doggy style, holding it like a teddy bear, basically. And yeah, NCIS came in, bagged this dude. Absolutely unreal. But if you ever get a chance, I guess go check out the Hobbit House. Different strokes for different folks, but wasn't a place we were interested in visiting. In addition, I remember the night that my naval career was almost ruined. Me and one of my best friends, he was my fellow Liberty buddy, still friends to this day. We showed up at a place, at what time was it? It was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That's one thing you learn about deployment. Nothing ever good happens after midnight. And we had a personal driver. We paid some Filipino dude like $20, and he treated us like gold. We tipped him another like 20 or 50 bucks. Literally, we were celebrities to this guy. And he was our personal driver and drove us everywhere we wanted to go right there in Manila. And he would patiently and loyally wait right outside of whatever bar, restaurant, club, whatever. He'd wait for us. Boom, next spot. And yeah, like 2:30, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, we told the guy, hey, we want to go to a place with girls. Where are the girls? Where's the nightlife? And in his broken English, he looked at us. I have just a place for you. And he drove us to this place. And yes, there were girls, right? There were women there. And to this day, man, to be honest, maybe, arguably, the most beautiful women I've ever seen on planet Earth. All of them were 10s. They were from all over the world, not just Filipino women, but from all over the world. And dude, there was one thing they all had in common. And me and my buddy were completely thrown off by this because this wasn't our scene. They all had numbers attached to them. And we were handed menus. Free drinks, right? All you can drink. But we were given menus, and you could order your specific pleasure with whatever number you wanted. Prostitution, that type of scene, at least for me, not what I do. Never have done it, never will do it. So I grabbed my buddy, said, hey man, don't care that you're falling in love. We're getting out of here. Boom, pulled him out. Went back to our driver, hit up the next spot. Well, the next morning, when we woke up and got back to the ship, an officer came up to us and said, hey, did you hear about the NCIS raid that took place last night in one of the red zones? We were like, no, what happened? Where was it? And he lists the neighborhood of the establishment. And me and my buddy smirk and look at each other, biting our tongue, because that's exactly where we went. And we asked for details of, hey, what happened? And I guess at, 3:30 or, 4:15, essentially like 20 minutes or so after we had left, a group of brothers and sisters from the aircraft carrier who was also, in Port Manila, they came strolling through right after we left and started indulging in essentially this brothel or sex ring. Well, NCIS had planned a formal raid on this place, and boom, the agents stormed it and essentially bagged all the officers and enlisted sailors from the carrier, and boom, they had a very difficult conversation or sit down with the admiral, and pretty sure that went on their records and maybe ruined a handful of careers. So me and my buddy got so lucky that we didn't stick around, or if my buddy, wanted a little bit of loving and I was just sitting there on the couch wolfing down drinks, right? And all of a sudden that raid comes through, say goodbye, right? My naval career is toast. So got super lucky with that one. After the Philippines, we're pulled into Las Vegas. Las Vegas is also known as Sasebo, Japan. Dude, I love Japan. We'll do some other episodes as well about my time in Japan. Went to Tokyo, Yokohama, Yokosuka, went up north to Hokkaido. Never made it to Kyoto, but man, Japanese culture, the food, the people, a really amazing place. Love that country. But Sasebo was actually close to Nagasaki. So obviously, a lot of you guys know the nuclear bombs were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And so we took a train over to Nagasaki and we went to the, nuclear bomb memorial and museum. Pays tribute to the victims, goes through the history, breaks it down. It's really bone-chilling, man. It's really sad. But what was absolutely crazy, what was so cringy about visiting that memorial in Nagasaki, Japan, was that there was a group of dumbass sailors and Marines who also were there that day to broaden their cultural horizons. And one of them was so tone-deaf and culturally insensitive, he had a tank top on that said, "Back-to-back World War champs." He was wearing that at the nuclear bomb site in Nagasaki. Who does that? Back-to-back World War champs? Are you kidding me? He did that. He went there. Dude, whoever that mofo was, man, they need Jesus. That was crazy. That was wild. So boom, we left Japan, and that was it, at least for our international port visits. We then made our way back towards the US, and it was full steam ahead towards Hawaii. So in regards to the missions and the things we did over there in Southeast Asia, some things I can talk about, other things I can't. But a lot of ships that go to Southeast Asia and some of the stuff that we did, it's called FONOPS, or Freedom of Navigation Operations. And typically, especially with China, is that they have some man-made islands there that they're creating. Go Google, Scarborough Reef, Spratly Islands. There's a big history behind this. You may agree with them, you may disagree, but regardless, part of our Navy's mission at that time was to disregard some of these man-made islands, and we would just, drive through, showing and waving, the flag of freedom, and not recognizing some of these territories. And one of the international boundaries or zones there was, or international waters was, 12 miles out. So without a country's permission, right, oftentimes, you can't cross in within 12 miles of that country's landmass. International waters, 12 miles out. And I'll never forget it, man. This was actually one of the turning points towards the end, or maybe the middle of deployment. When it came to purpose and fulfillment and being hungry for the mission and feeling good about what we were doing, I remember everything tanked. Morale completely hit rock bottom on one mission we had. It was so political. It was so dumb. But it's funny now to think about it, because we were basically instructed by the government or by one of the admirals not to cross that 12-mile mark. Right? So we're doing freedom of navigation ops, but we're not allowed to cut in, that 12-mile mark. And we're basically off the coast of some of these Chinese islands. And so we were gearing up for this really big mission. We were going to show China, whose boss we were. And, all the planning goes into it. The enlisted sailors are ready. The officers are on edge, ready to lead the charge. And sure enough, this Chinese frigate comes out to meet us, to basically now shadow us, maybe within 50 to 100 yards off our starboard side. And boom, they're going to monitor us and watch us. And we thought we were actually going to be going and riding the line of that 12 nautical mile mark, or even cut in. But we were instructed to stay at least a minimum of 14 or 15 nautical miles from one of these islands. And we asked the captain, what are we doing? Can we at least get to the 12 nautical mile mark? Can we ride the line? And, we're hungry for some action here. No can do. Admiral's orders, stay 2 or 3 miles even further out from that 12 nautical mile mark. And dude, after like 2 or 3 hours of being complete bitches and being pussies, the Chinese gave up. They were like, nope, not going to burn this fuel, not worth it. We're going back. And so the sun was setting. I'll never forget it. We were on the bridge, right? We were driving the ship, and we see the Chinese ship just take a hard right, and it goes back into its port. And as the sun set and it got dark, we still were way out from this boundary that we were supposed to show China whose boss we were, right? And at night, they throw this massive bonfire with like strobe lights and LED lights. They're throwing a party. We get on the binos, keg stands, music. They have a feast or a barbecue. They're throwing an absolute party as our sorry asses are literally 15 miles away, just like not even making a difference and not even making an impact or statement. And it was after that day that literally, as officers, we had to put on a face or facade or try to explain to the enlisted sailors, especially those, that wanted purpose and wanted to use their training, and all of this on deployment had led to this moment. Man, morale got crushed. It was very difficult. We were all wondering, like, what the hell are we doing out here? Marriages are getting blown up. We're blowing taxpayers' dollars, right? All this gas, all this fuel. We could be back home. It was difficult. It was tough. And definitely, that was a turn in deployment that I'll never forget. And on the way back to try to raise morale, they gave us a swim call, which this was actually pretty dope. This was cool. A swim call in the Navy is essentially where the ship stops, it lays anchor, and boom, once cleared by the captain, you can jump overboard, boom, into the water. And we were in one of the deepest areas of the Pacific Ocean there. The water was so blue. It was beautiful. And we all got to jump in. Enlisted, officers, whoever wanted to take the plunge, boom. You'd step off the side and a pretty far good drop there. And you could go underwater. You could look underneath the ship. We had snorkel gear or, scuba gear there or goggles, whatever. And it was wild, man. And it was so eerie. It was so deep. And I remember they actually put out rafts or small boats. And there were armed sailors with rifles. We were wondering, like, what is this for? Oh, it was Shark Watch. So, as a protective measure in case shit hit the fan, they had sailors locked and loaded with rifles, ready to fire if need be. And so, yeah, that was a little bit weird that all of a sudden we're all swimming there and boom, someone gets taken under. What's the guy with the rifle going to do? Shoot the shark or shoot the human to put him out of its misery? I'll never forget that either, but swim call, that was special. That was cool. I'll never forget jumping off the ship there. After the swim call, a couple weeks later, boom, we found ourselves in Hawaii. It was my first time ever on the island of Oahu, so pulled into Pearl Harbor there, got to enjoy the North Shore, Honolulu, Waikiki, Kailua, Kaneohe. Man, if you ever get a chance to go to the island of Oahu, it's a must-do. We were there for RIMPAC. RIMPAC's essentially a international military exercise with a bunch of different nations and navies or military, so did some training out, in the water there or out at sea, but basically got an all-expense paid vacation on Oahu for 2 weeks. We ran an absolute muck. That's once again where I fell in love with van life. You can check out that episode, Strength in the Shadows. It's called Starting #Van Life. It goes into this entire 2 weeks and everything I did. But man, Hawaii is special. Continue to go back there. Did a lot of hiking, training, enjoying the food, right? The poke, the beaches, the nightlife. It was just really fun, man. Special place in my heart for Hawaii, and especially at the very end of deployment after 6.5 months. Dude, it was so good to be back on U.S. soil, to be back in the U.S. there. And of course, a couple weeks later, right, we found ourselves back in San Diego. And dude, nothing feels better than pulling back in and being home. And I'll never forget it. Seeing San Diego on the horizon, us pulling in, going through the bay or the harbor there, getting docked up and seeing my parents, seeing my family, right, friends, all down below. My parents were holding a sign. And dude, when I close my eyes and I think back on that moment, like after 7 months of being gone, some uncertainty and some, of course, challenging or difficult times, dude, it was so good to be with my family again. I'll never forget it. Like hugging my mom and my dad and my stepmom, like it was just super special. Um, it was wholesome, man. It was just so great to be back and love them all to death. So it was cool, dude. If you guys, have been deployed and you get back, you know that feeling. It's unlike anything else out there. So that was deployment number 1, man. Absolutely wild. Good times. A lot of bad times, but it was quite the experience. That was one thing when I joined the military, or, after graduating at least from the Naval Academy, I wanted at least one deployment. I wanted the experience. I wanted to be able to relate to other veterans who had also deployed. I wanted some stories, right? I wanted a little debauchery. I think I got it all. Of course, Old Navy in the old days and maybe some other services and their deployments look a little bit different, but at the end of the day, much love and big shout out to all the federal veterans, all the people who are active duty right now, holding down the front lines. Much love to all of you. I hope this podcast episode finds you well. And to anyone listening that was in the military or, out of the military, especially if you're a civilian who's never served, but maybe you know people right now that are about to deploy or are currently deployed, number one thing you can do, man, send them a message, send them an email, right? DM, Facebook message, doesn't matter. Let them know that you're thinking about them. Let them know that you support them. Maybe you have their address. You can send them a care package. Man, big morale booster. It really means a lot. I know while I was out there, I had some great support. Got a lot of care packages. People that cared about me and loved me. Man, definitely made a difference. And every once in a while, like I said, getting a word from back home or having some thoughts or wishes or prayers, whatever it may be, the least you can do, and I try to do it this time as well with my friends or people I know that are deployed, is reach out, check in, see how they're doing. And I know service members alike and people who are out there doing God's work, so to speak, truly appreciate all the love and support. So that's it. Episode for deployment number 1 is in the books. Let me know if you enjoyed this. And hey, we'll get after it with another episode regarding deployment number 2 and those demons. Stay well, stay after it, and God bless the USA. As we come to a close, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to each and every one of you for joining us on this transformative journey. If you found value in our discussions and stories, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review for my podcast. Your reviews not only fuel my passion for creating meaningful content, but also allow others to discover this empowering space. Your support truly makes a difference. All links are in the description. Thank you for being an essential part of this dynamic community. Goodbye for now, and remember, keep going.